Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me. We're going to talk about the student that we discussed about collecting data on. Ms. Price and I recently talked about this, and I'm just going to give you a few ideas and help you. Hopefully, you take away different ways of gathering data so that we can further help the student and progress his education while at our school. The first thing that I need you all to understand that when you have him, whether it's in your class, whether it's in PE, if he has any type of behavior issue, we need to document. Documentation is a key to all behaviors. Just if it's a new behavior, it's something that's reoccurring. If it's in a certain setting, Ms. Price and I talked about this earlier, is that normally when the kids get called on, he acts out because he doesn't want to do the work, or he may get embarrassed doing things in front of other students. So whenever we have an issue, the number one thing that we have to do as a staff is document it. And with documentation, it helps all administration know what's going on in classroom, out of classroom, walking up and down the hallways, anything. That it just helps everybody from other teachers to yourself and assistant principals and principals and anybody. If he has a behavior therapist outside of class, outside of school, all this information can be handed over with the correct documentation and records that we can release it to them. But documentation is truly the key of making sure that we get it all documented to hand to the next person in order to help this student become a better person in the classroom and just help him further his education while under our care. Also with the documentation, we cover ourselves as a district, because if the behaviors ever led to aggression toward other students, other staff, or just anybody that is in the line of fire at the time, always needs to be documented so that we can prove what we did and how we did it. But let's make sure we get everything documented and filed correctly in the appropriate folder. Try not to misplace or set something aside and forget to place it in the correct documentation, because again, it's confidential because it pertains to one student's record and things that he does within the classroom full of other students. So let's get it documented, filed, and put into the right hands when it's necessary, especially when it comes time for art. Those are things that we are definitely going to have to do to better the students' education. Moving on to the next thing. Next thing is setting routines in the classroom. Setting routines in your classroom can be beneficial to all students, not just students with behaviors. Students, as they come in your classroom, they know exactly what they're doing, where to go. If you have a warm-up, always setting your warm-up pieces of paper or activities or materials that they need in the same location every day. Definitely helps them. They can come right in. You can have everything written up on the board. Hey, name, date, read the directions, grab the material, and they'll know, and they'll know what to do. And it's pretty much a self-taught. That'll help anybody that has behavior issues kind of manage their self-manage. Self-management is definitely something that we want from our students, because with routine, they know what's going to happen. They know what to expect, and sometimes can help us do our job without having to intervene or stop our lesson, stop your lesson to deal with something that's causing a disruption in the whole class. So setting routines is when you go out of your classroom to PE, or when you go to lunch, when you go to different things outside of the classroom, or when you go to recess. All these things need to be on some type of schedule and make it visible for all students to see. Because if it's something that you have in your mind and they can't see it, they don't know the routine truly. It's still them relying on you as a teacher to tell them what to do, or if you have it listed on your board every day, warm up, put up warm up, go into daily reading, finish daily reading. Just make it as detailed as you can, if at all possible. Lunch and recess and all those things are always at the same time, unless there's a field trip or unless there's an event going on at our school that changes the routine. Changes the routine, but at that point, administration will send out emails or schedules that you guys can have, and you can post it in front of your board, in front of your room, so that the whole class will know that there's something different. And even just giving a subtle reminder, hey, this is gonna happen today, our routine is gonna be a little different today, so just encourage them to adjust well and help them do that, so that the behaviors that we've been having out of a student is minimal. So setting routines and will definitely be a helpful tool to get the behaviors down when it comes to the student. So, but once we have all the documentation, we've set our routines, and we get into the point where the school year is going on, progressing along, and we still have a high number of behaviors out of the student, what we need to do is set up different techniques that we can do to help the student. One thing that we can do with the student is to have one-on-one pull-out. One-on-one pull-out is definitely something that will help the student, one, to know if he's gathering the information that is being taught, although he is having difficulty being called upon and acting out and displaying a lot of behaviors when being called upon. Having this one-on-one session pull out with the student will let us know and let other teachers know that have him, if he's actually progressing, or if he's learning what the teacher is teaching. So we'll take the teacher's work with us in this one-on-one session, explain it to him, and let him work it and see if he's understanding. Making sure his performance level at that grade level with the work that you provide us, or whoever's doing the one-on-one session, if it's good or if it needs improvement. We'll be able to see with these one-on-one sessions where his academic level is when it comes down to actually doing the work. Because then with the one-on-one sessions, we'll definitely know if the behaviors just because he doesn't want to do the work, or if he doesn't know how to do the work. And when he acts out, he's trying to escape work so that he doesn't have to do it. That's definitely something that we want to figure out with these one-on-one pull-out sessions. And not only to see how his work progresses, if his behaviors are maintained in the one-on-one sessions, or is he still giving us problems in the one-on-one sessions? If he's not giving us problems in the one-on-one sessions, it's obviously to do something with, I shouldn't say obviously, it may be to do with the people the students that he's in the classroom with. Maybe he doesn't want them to see something. Maybe he doesn't want, he just doesn't like the spotlight being on him. But if the behaviors subside while in the one-on-one sessions and he's able to do these things in a one-on-one session, we definitely need to figure out what we can do to get him to perform at the level needed in the classroom, regardless of the setting, regardless of how many people are in the classroom. So that's something that we'll do in these one-on-one sessions. And guys, if you have any suggestions on other suggestions on how we can maximize these one-on-one sessions, please feel free to send me an email and jot down and send me a note or campus mail or anything that you think of that will help get the student on track. I'm open to suggestions. And the last thing that we can do, that I think we can do, again, open for suggestions when it comes to this, is having a calming station in every class that this student is in, or just in general, placing a calming station in everybody's class. I mean, you guys do a great job of setting up a room, decorating it, and making it presentable for students to walk in on the first day and just like be wild about it and just be happy to come into your classroom. Put a calming station somewhere in a corner. Just isolated bean bags, chairs, pictures, just somewhere that they can calm down and they can go and try to just regain focus after having a terrible start to the day, or just mid-period crisis, just a meltdown. If they're having a complete meltdown, try to get them in that calming station so that they can settle down, regain focus, and just get themselves together before they come back to the classroom, come back to the class and sit down. But after you do send them to the calming station for however many minutes, just depending on the situation at hand, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, hopefully no more than 15 minutes, because that's the majority of the class, or for that subject that you're teaching before you have to move on. But if it needs to be 15 minutes, it needs to be 15 minutes. But when he or she, you can use this for anybody in the classroom, because you definitely don't want to use it to isolate one student and just always send that one student. You can use it for any student. Is whenever they complete their calming minutes in the calming station, and when you allow them to come back to your class, make sure we're setting the limits. You've had this much time in that station, and what we need to do now is have you know that once you complete your calming station, you come back here. I expect you to do this, set the limits, set the boundaries, however you want to phrase it. Just make sure it's not in a attacking manner, something that's aggressive back at the student that just had the meltdown. Or you can even make that part of your routine, putting on the board, if you are sent to a calming station, when returning to class, these are the things that you need to do. bump, bump, bump. This is your expectation after coming out of the calming station. Of course, you don't want to come out of the calming station being disruptive to the other students, or you don't want to just burst out into some type of disruption to cause everybody to lose focus after you've calmed down. Again, this is just something that I needed to present to you to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to documentation, routine setting, developing a one-on-one session pull-out, and all teachers need to have a calming station within their classrooms so that it's across the board, everybody's classroom, that we have almost the identical routine when it comes to documenting behaviors, change of behaviors, something out of normality of a student's behavior. If you have a student that's always perfect in your class, never even has a write-up or a redirect in your classroom, and all of a sudden, boom, like that, they're in tears or they're frustrated. We need to document that. We need to make sure it's not a part of the routine that caused that, and if it is, we can set up something, whether it's sending them to the calming station, maybe that'll just help, or if we need to set up the one-on-one pull-out so that we can dissect the problem and get with other students and other teachers, and see if that's something that occurred in different classes. But again, I appreciate you all coming. This professional development just was more so for everybody to know what is going on, and I appreciate it.